Welcome to Bronx Community College's presentation of Comparison and Assessment of Hybrid to Traditional Anatomy and Physiology II course. This study was undertaken by Dr. Abass Abdullahi, who has taught anatomy and physiology as both a traditional and hybrid course, Mr. Albert Robinson, Director of the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology, and I, Dr. Richard LaManna, Academic Assessment Manager for the college.
The program, I want to talk a little bit about the program that we use. Is called Teaching with Technology Faculty Development. We started the program in the summer of 2005. Faculty apply for the program with the approval and support of their department chair. If the instructor is chosen, they receive a stipend that is paid over time as they complete the required benchmarks. The program components are: the participants in the program engage in a 6-month cycle of training, preparation of course material, and careful sequence activities leading to delivery of a partially hybrid or completely asynchronous online course using the Blackboard learning management system. 2 levels of programming are available. Level 1 for first-time online instructors, and Level 2 is for instructors that want to enhance their course with other types of instructional technology, example, podcasting or Web 2.0 tools. Level 1 for the summer is face-to-face meetings held in early June, followed by online course development activities, which meet specified sequential goals. The fall semester, delivery of a transitional web-enhanced version of the course selected for development. Web-enhanced means a normal classroom schedule while using the Blackboard site to house documents, provide resources, and other additional learning activities. Participants also meet once per month during the fall term and share experiences and troubleshoot difficulties. We made some modifications to that program over the last couple of years. So currently now the way the fall semester works is delivery of a hybrid or asynchronous version of a course. This program structure follows the pattern first introduced at BCC in 2005. Participants, faculty members who are experienced and skilled online instructors. Participants receive a stipend paid in increments corresponding to achievement of program benchmarks. Ongoing Blackboard support and workshops are available for faculty through the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Technology. One-on-one sessions and workshops are offered throughout the semester as well. In the Level 2 portion that we have now, it's podcasting and Web 2.0 faculty development. In the podcasting program, it provides hands-on training on how to produce screencasts and audio and video podcasts and discover how these tools are effectively enhance the teaching and learning environment of your course. The workshop will also explore the pedagogy aspects of multimedia as a device for tutors, for creating activities and assignments, and as an extension of the learning experience beyond class time. Web 2.0, during these hands-on sessions, we will examine and explore 4 Web 2.0 applications that could be incorporated into coursework that can exist inside or outside of the Blackboard environment. Participants will learn about methodologies used by others and guided through their development process, and will utilize a Web 2.0 application in their full online or face-to-face course.
Our students at Bronx Community College find both Anatomy and Physiology I and Anatomy and Physiology II to be challenging courses, as indeed most college students do. Anatomy and Physiology II is required for most allied health careers, especially nursing and radiologic technology, both of which require students to maintain the highest GPAs of any of our college programs. We formulated 4 questions that we believe should be asked and answered for our study to have merit. They are: 1. Does the flexibility of the online format encourage more students to participate in the course exams? 2. How well were the course learning outcomes met in the traditional and hybrid formats of A&P II? 3. How did failure and withdrawal rates compare between traditional and hybrid formats of A&P II? And 4. Does the hybrid A&P II format help students to succeed?
Before answering those key questions, we'd like to talk about preparing and engaging the hybrid students. This is something I personally learned from the workshops I attended, that is very important to engage the students. So based on the training I got, it's very important to come up with a very detailed, very organized syllabus with very clear expectations of what the students' responsibilities are, with details of weekly units and weekly modules for study, with a lot of visual aids so that we could put care for students who are visual learners or students who are audio learners. And so we had a lot of videos, we had a lot of online animations and that kind of thing. We also had a lot of activities required weekly. We had quizzes. We also had exams or discussion boards, and these were alternating. In other words, in 1 week we'll have a quiz, in the following week then we'll have an exam, and then the following week we'll have a discussion board, and the pattern repeats again. And the idea for these was to have a clear goal and have a clear weekly activity for the students so they're not lost. Here is a Blackboard course screenshot. We have, for example, on content, we have the syllabus there. The syllabus is also given under information. The lecture PDF files are clearly under the content, so is the lab PDF files. We also have under information, if students were not clear on how to do exams or how to do discussion board, there's a Word document that explains for them exactly what to do. There's a practice test given to them in the first week of the course, and the idea is to help them, practice questions. This helps with anxiety, with confidence issues, so the students can be more confident doing these tests. So then we have a bunch of folders for quizzes. We have lab quizzes folder, we have lecture quizzes folder, we have lecture exam folders. So when the time comes, when the necessary time comes, they will be posted under each of these folders. So as you can see, it is very, very clearly organized. Although the syllabus was very organized with specific dates and all that, we still had to engage the students more by sending announcements each time an exam is posted or a quiz is posted or discussion board is posted. Not only that, but we also needed reminders at least a day before the exam is taken off. It's very easy to get lost in the online environment, so this way we could engage the students. Also, the discussion board topics were topics that students could relate to personally. For example, topics to do with respiration. Asthma is a big problem here, for example. It's a common thing. Nutrition, like childhood obesity and things like that. Heart disease. So those topics that they could personally relate to and they could exchange information with each other. So that was important to engage them personally. Also, the notes that were given to them, the PDF notes, were such that they had questions embedded on them. In the bottom of the slides there were questions, and the idea was to force them to answer those questions by reading those notes. And some of those questions were used in the quizzes or in the exam. So this way there was motivation for looking up the Blackboard notes.
Our first question was, does the flexibility of the online format encourage more students to participate in the course exams?
I would say yes and no. We had some mixed results. First of all, flexibility meant that students could take the test over a long period of time. Flexibility meant students could do multiple attempts. As you can see on the graphs here, the blue one on the leftmost corner is the traditional format. Exam 1, Exam 2, Exam 3, Exam 4 is given there. And the other are comparisons with the hybrid format. So in the hybrid format, there are 3 given there: attempt 1, attempt 2, attempt 3, over a period of a week. And I would like to make it clear that these questions were randomized from a pool of questions and a tool in Blackboard called Pool Manager, so that the students were seeing different questions each time. And it's important to randomize the questions. The questions were also, exams were timed. So flexibility meant, as you can see here, slight improvements in the performance of the hybrid students. You can see hybrid test 3, for example, is better than 2, which is better than 1. So the hybrid students performed slightly better in the 4 exams. As you can see, as we saw in the last slide, the hybrid students performed better when the data was pooled with those multiple attempts. So why did I say yes and no then? Because if we did paired t-test analysis, is a statistical analysis, and the difference was actually significant. So you'll think, oh yes, the hybrid students perform better. So why did I say yes and no? The reason is because, however, fewer students attempted the online exams multiple times. Yes, the online exam helped their performance, but we only had fewer participants do these tests, as you'll see in the next slide. So here you can see, for example, the blue one on the left side is a traditional format, and you can see about, for example, exam 1, 95% of the students did the test, exam 2, 98%, and you can read through that, 89% for exam 3, 91%, 93% for exam 4 and the final. When it comes to the hybrid students, however, you have similar attendance, similar students doing the tests. This is a percentage of the number of students actually doing the tests, showing up for the tests. And so it's very comparable when it comes to attempt 1. However, when it comes to attempt 2, the number goes half. It goes down to almost 50%. And when you go to attempt 3, you have the number going to 15% to 23%. Very, very low numbers. So even though the performance of the students improved with these multiple attempts, the number of students doing the tests decreased. And the reason we think this happened is because majority of the hybrid students took their exams too close to the deadline. Almost 2/3 of the hybrid students made their first exam attempt on the deadline day. Remember, I had to post a reminder a day or so earlier. So that's when they're like, okay, we have to do the test. Even though they had a whole week to do it, they only thought about doing the test very, very late. So therefore, they limited their time and opportunities to retake these randomized question exams a second time or a third time.
Our next question was, how well were course learning outcomes met in the traditional and hybrid formats of Anatomy and Physiology II?
I would say it was okay. Both the traditional and hybrid groups scored their lowest grades on the common final, which is not unusual because this is a comprehensive final that covers material from the beginning of the semester all the way to the end. Material for exam 1, exam 2, exam 3, exam 4. So that's a lot of work for students to study. So traditional students, however, perform slightly better at meeting the course learning outcome benchmarks, 63% compared to 57% for the hybrid students. And this is an average of their common final score. So basically the score that they got on those common finals. So, however, the traditional students seem to have a little bit of an advantage because they were used to the classroom setting and the traditional procedures of the common final. The reason is because traditional students, remember, were coming for the test on campus and doing the tests, and the common final is on campus, so it was very similar to that. The questions of the common final were picked from those earlier questions, so it was easy for them to follow. However, it was more difficult for the hybrid students because The hybrid students meant we had randomized questions in exam 1, exam 2, exam 3, exam 4, so they had way more questions to focus on.
Bronx Community College uses a decentralized distribution or a proficiency-based approach to integrate general education into the curriculum. For outcomes assessment purposes, we ask professors to align one or more of their course content learning outcomes to one or more of the college's gen ed proficiencies. On the Anatomy and Physiology II syllabus, we find 6 course learning outcomes, all of which are aligned to our reasoning and analysis proficiency. The 6th outcome, identify and summarize the steps of the scientific method and recognize their role in the context of a lab experiment, naturally addresses another of the college's proficiencies, scientific method.
I'd like you to focus on the highlighted portions in red. So for example, course learning outcome number 1, you see recognize the anatomical structures, explain physiological functions, recognize and explain the principles of homeostasis related to, now in red, we have the circulatory, the lymphatic, and the immune systems. And outcome number 2 in red is the respiratory system. Number 3 in red is the urinary system. And number 4 in red is the digestive system. Number 5, course outcome, learning outcome number 5 is reproductive system. So we'll focus on those 5 learning outcomes because that was done in lecture, and the comprehensive final that we had was in lecture. Number 6 was more of a laboratory experiment, so we don't have analysis of that. But number 6 basically focuses on the scientific method, which fits more with the lab environment. And as you can see here, the course learning outcomes were compared between the hybrid format and the non-hybrid format, basically the traditional format. So course learning outcome number 1, for example, for the hybrid format, for a period of a couple semesters, spring 10, fall 10, spring 11, fall 11, we had about 69 students go through this course compared to department-wide. Actually, a coordinator for the anatomy and physiology for the department, so have access to all that data as well. We have about 621 students over this period of time. So if we compare the course learning outcomes, you'll see that in the beginning of the semester, this seems to be better. We seem to be better at meeting those outcomes. For example, for both the hybrid and the traditional, we have about 66% meeting the outcome. And as we go through the semester, actually we go down in meeting those outcomes. So 56%, for example, for the hybrid, 60% for the biology department. So that by the time we get into course learning outcome number 5, which was the reproductive system, the hybrid is already down to only 48%, whereas the biology department wide is 50%. So seems like we emphasize concepts very well in the beginning of the semester, concepts to do with the heart, concepts to do with the respiratory system and things like that. But when it comes to the end, reproductive system and stuff, maybe it's coming towards the end of the semester, there's a rush and all that, so maybe there's not enough time to cover those concepts. I like to emphasize too that these percentages are the number of students correctly answering the common final questions reflecting the specific course learning outcomes. So based on this, I gave you a general overview of what's going on, but also another way we compare the two is it seems like the traditional students were better at meeting these course learning outcomes compared to the hybrid student. This is in line with the course learning outcome benchmarks we saw earlier, their score. So those two are basically going together. And course learning outcome number 6, which is scientific method, is more lab-based and wasn't included in the common finals.
Our third question was, how did failure and withdrawal rates compare between traditional and hybrid formats of Anatomy and Physiology II?
I'll say we had mixed results for this because on one hand, the traditional students were more likely to fail the course compared to the hybrid students, 16% versus 2%. So that's a positive thing for hybrid learners. The online format apparently decreased the number of students failing the course. Another way to look at it actually, in terms of failure, is not just grade F, but how many students are getting less than C plus, which is what most of the allied health courses require. In the beginning we talked about the students taking anatomy and physiology usually go into allied health programs like nursing and radiology and things like that. So the students in the hybrid format, about 75% of them got C or better, compared to the traditional format, which had about 69%. So that's also a positive thing for the hybrid format. It's not included in the slide here, but that's something I wanted to throw out there. On the other hand, why did I say it is mixed results? Because it's one thing to consider failure rates from grade F point of view or C plus point of view, but it's also another thing to look at how many students were actually withdrawing from the course. So we had hybrid students being more likely to drop the course compared to the traditional students. We have about 11% of hybrid students withdrawing from the course compared to only 2% of the traditional students. And this is not unusual. This is actually in the literature. It seems like because of the fact that it's online, students are not engaged as much. We tried our best, yes, we prepared them, we engaged them, we gave all the announcements, and we made it very clear to them. Maybe these numbers would have even been worse if that was not done. But maybe more reminders need to be given to them. There better be more engagements to work on those numbers in future.
And our fourth and final question was, does the hybrid Anatomy and Physiology II format help students to succeed?
I look at this question as closing the loop, which means summarizing our data. There are some things which are very encouraging. For example, we are encouraged with the slight performance increase relative to the traditional class in the 4 online or 4 one-hour exams. So that's a positive thing for the hybrid students. And the fact that there's flexibility in the hybrid, you can be able to do multiple attempts, you can be able to give a test over a period of time as you wish. So that's always a positive thing. It's not as limited as a traditional class, which you have to have only 1 hour in a week or something like that. Very limited time period you can do a test. So that's an encouraging sign for using the hybrid format. Another encouraging sign is the fact that we have fewer failures in the hybrid format. Remember, there's 2% only in the hybrid format. So that's another positive thing. And the fact that we had fewer students in the hybrid format getting C plus or lower, which means more of the hybrid students were able to go to their majors. So that's another thing which is encouraging. However, in assessments, not only we don't look at the encouraging things in closing the loop, we also look at things that we need to work on, things that need improvement. And for example, we would like to increase the participation in the online exams. If you remember from the data we had, the participation was not very good. In exam 2, in exam 3, the attempts 2 and 3 were not good. They were pretty much lower, almost half in attempt 2 and then almost 15% in attempt 3. So that's something that needs a little bit of improvement. And one way to improve maybe is giving more reminders earlier instead of only a day or so earlier. Maybe needs to work on that. We need to work on something like that. And also need to work on course completion, because the hybrid students seem to have high withdrawal rates compared to the traditional students. So this is something that we need to maybe work on, engaging the students more, preparing them more, maybe advising them more. Whatever we can do to improve on that, that's at least something that needs to be improved on. Finally, also important to look at the course learning outcomes and see how that can be improved as well. We're thinking of soon starting assessing student performance on the course learning outcomes in an online environment, so that they are doing it in an environment that they're used to all through the semester, and this is not an advantage for the traditional class anymore. So we'll see how that will help in our overall analysis of the data.
Thank you. We'd like to share our acknowledgments to Bronx Community College's instructional technology staff, Drs. Howard Walk, Stephen Powers, Laura Broughton, and Mr. Albert Robinson for online teaching workshops and guidance on course design.
We'd like to also thank BCC's assessment group led by Dr. Richard LaManna. All these assessments we talked about, basically we work closely with them, and Mr. Albert Robinson, who both of whom helped with this presentation today, this HETS presentation. So we'd like to say big thanks to them. Also, if you are interested in reading more about this information, you can go to Abdullahi Abass, Student Exam Participation Performances in a Web-Enhanced Traditional and Hybrid Allied Health Biology course. This is published in JOLTS, which is Journal of Online Learning and Teaching, volume number 7 in 2001, December 2001 actually, pages 426 to 438. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
We understand the factors that promote college success, the impact of approaches that truly facilitate success and quality, the secret to a solid teaching process for the Hispanic learner, and the key role of technology to make this happen. HETS, an opportunity to propose, find, and integrate innovative technology solutions to education. We go beyond higher education. We strive for a higher vision. Visit us at www.hets.org. HETS Consortium.